Hello everyone, today we're learning about Mציעא Daf Hey. So we're going to start from quite a few lines up, about 12 lines up on Undalad Omud Beis. Tone Tane Kamedi Rabbi Loza. Someone learned in front of Rabbi Loza, the Tana, and it says in the Pasuk, V'imba be'ima tmeo upodo be'erkecha. It says if someone's makdish a be'ima tmeo, and he redeems it, he has to add choimish. So we learn from over there, ma be'ima tmeo miuchedes. What's special about be'ima tmeo? Shetchilosoi hegdesh, that it's hegdesh, that you made it out of nothing. It was an old be'ima, and now you suddenly made the hegdesh. You didn't swap it for another something that was hegdesh, and soon we're going to ask why not. A be'ima tmeo could be swapped for something that's already hegdesh. Could be something that you're matfis. V'kulo l'shamayim, it doesn't have, you don't get anything, it belongs all to Hekdesh. It's not like Kochim Kalim that you get part of the animal from the Mizbeach. And if you use it without being pointed at your moyel, af kol sh'tchilose Hekdesh, anything that's the beginning of Hekdesh, that wasn't atfosa, was akdosha, v'kulo l'shamayim, and it belongs all to Shamayim, moyalim bo your moyel in it. So Amali Rabbi Loza Letana, Rabbi Loza told the Tana, Bishli Makula Shamayim, very good, Lemuti Kochi Kalim, it's coming to exclude Kochim Kalim, Kevin the Usulu Labailim Begavayu, since the Bailim get a part of meat from the carbon, from these Kochim Kalim, less Behu Meila. There's no Meila in Kochim Kalim. Elo Tchilas Hekdesh, Lemuti Mai, why is it coming to exclude when it says only Tchilose Hekdesh? Tchilas Hekdesh, Udis Bemeila, so if Hekdesh less Bemeila, is there only meila on something that you made the hekdesh from nothing, but if you matfis it, if there was already a hekdesh on this animal, you swapped it for the first animal or for the watch or for whatever the first item was, there's no meila in it. It doesn't make any sense. We know there's always meila. So he continued and he said, maybe you meant to say that there's no choimish if it's, you only have to give choimish if it's tchilas hekdesh, but if it's a tfosa, you don't have to give choimish. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, and like what we said earlier on yesterday, that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says that Hekdesh Rishon you moisif choimish, but Hekdesh Sheni you no moisif choimish, and this is what you mean to say? Amalei, so the Tana told Rabbi Loza, yes, ochika amina, this is why I meant. Doesn't mean that there's no meila. It means to say that there's no choimish. Amalei Ravashi Ravina. Ravashi told Ravina, he asked the Mashayla, Behemat mea betchilas Hekdesh isa, be'emtze Hekdesh lesa, you Behemat mea cannot be at fossa. It could be at fossa. Why are you telling me dafka behemat mea that's only tchilose Hekdesh? I mean, there was nothing Hekdesh, and he made a kodesh. Lafuka is something that there was something Hekdesh, and he swapped it on this. A behemat mea could be swapped. So why is behemat mea miuchedes at tchilose Hekdesh? It's not. Omalei lefi she'einu b'soif hekdesh, because the behemat mea is not shaykh b'soif hekdesh. What is b'soif hekdesh? It means something that stays hekdeshes forever. And there's two options. One option is the animal they bring to a korban, and that's not shaykh by behemat mea because you can't bring it as a korban. And the other option is like a stone they put in the Beis Hamikdash in the walls, or a piece of wood they put in the door of the Beis Hamikdash. But behemat mea you don't put in the walls of the Beis Hamikdash. So when we said it's not at fossa, we meant to say that's not besoif hekdesh. It's not, you never bring a behemat mea as a korban. Omalei Rav Acha midifti Ravina, be'emtze hekdesh mea isa, ulo yisifna michoimish. We said, this Brisa said that we learned from behemat mea that you only have to give choimish something that was never hekdesh, not that you swapped it for something that was hekdesh, but something that you swapped, you don't have to give choimish, and you learn it from behemat mea, but it doesn't make any sense. A behemat mea could be at fossa. And if it's at fossa, and it's in the pasuk they have to be moisif choimish, so the din should be that even in at fossa you have to be moisif choimish. How are we learning from here? They're not. Very good, it's not on soif hekdesh, but on soif hekdesh we're not talking about, we're talking about at fossa. Omalei Aryeh u'kesoif hekdesh. We learn from this pasuk that emtze hekdesh is three stages. There's tchilas hekdesh, I mean something that there was no hekdesh and he made it into hekdesh. Emtze hekdesh is at fossa, and soif hekdesh means something that will go to the Beis Hamikdash and stay there, like a korban or like a rock in the wall of the Beis Hamikdash. So we say it's Omalei Aryeh u'kesoif hekdesh. It's like soif hekdesh. Emtze hekdesh is like soif hekdesh. Ma soif hekdesh in a moisif choimish because it's going to be a korban. You not poider it. Af hemtze hekdesh, even something that's at fossa in a moisif choimish. Also that you know moisif choimish. Omalei Rav Zutra Breder Rav Mori Ravina, my chosis. What makes you say this? The medamis le soif hegdish, are you comparing emtza hegdish, where it's atfosa to soif hegdish? Medami le tchilas hegdish, maybe we'll compare it to something that's tchilas hegdish, that you do moisif choimish. How do you know to medami it is soif hegdish? Omalei mistaber le soif hegdish avele le dmuye. It's better, it makes more sense to medami it is soif hegdish than to medami it tchilas hegdish, shekein nitfas, minitfas. Says the Gemara, no, Adarabba, l'tchilas hekdesh havele lidmui. It's more comparable to tchilas hekdesh. Shekein dover sheyesh acharav kedusha. Tchilas hekdesh you can be poiderit. Min dover sheyesh acharav kedusha, also when you matfis, you could also be poiderit. So it's more comparable to tchilas hekdesh. He should have to be moisif choimish. So says the Gemara, kedama rava. Really, the reason is why we learn from Beima Tmeah that only tchilas hekdesh is not because what we're saying now. A whole new pshat kedama rava, like Rava said when it said in the pasuk a oila, we learn oila rishono because it says a oila with a hey. It means that the oila is the first carbon that you bring every morning, and nothing comes before the oila. Ochinami also here, since it says Beima atmeah with the hey, tmeah rishono means only something that's hegdish for the first time and not at fossa, and that's how we know that fossa you know moisif choimish. We have a brayta that says clearly what Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said that not fossa you know moisif choimish. It says if someone gave a cow and swapped it for, there was a cow that was hegdish already, and he gave a different cow and said that it should be instead of the one shel hegdish. So parzu tachas partial hegdish, or the same case by a talis zu tachas talis shel hegdish, he swapped it. Hegdish podui, what was hegdish goes out lechulin. We had hegdish al elyono, and the hegdish has a stronger hand, meaning if the one that he gave instead of what was kaddish is worth more, so the whole value of it becomes hegdish. And if it was worth less, he has to add the value of the cow that was hegdish early on. He has to add that to hegdish. And if he said a similar case, but he specifically said, Parazu bechomesh sloim, he said this cow that I'm swapping is worth 5 sloim, tachas partial hegdish should be instead of a partial hegdish, or talis sud, if talis that's worth bechomesh sloim, tachas talis shel hegdish, and then we found out that it was really worth less. So maybe in such a case, we'll say that the swap is nochal. So the Bride said, no, hegdish podui. Still it works, even though you specifically said the value and you had it wrong. Continue the brisa, and this is what we were trying to bring this brisa here for. Al hekdesh rishon moisif choimish. If something that you magdish for the first time, then you had to add a fifth. Al hekdesh sheni, but on hekdesh you matfis on something that's already kodesh, eina moisif choimish. You don't have to add a fifth. Okay, so now we know we have a source from the brisa to the din of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. And we know that we learn it from atmeah, the first time that you magdish it. From atmeah means the first time, like ha'oila, oila rishoina. Says the Mishnah, Ayno arba kesef. Like we learned early on, that for 24 coins, if you it's overpriced, underpriced for 4 coins, a 6, that's Ayno. There is a din of moide b'miktas. If Reuven claims from Shimon something and Shimon admits on a little bit, so he has to make a shvuah moide b'miktas. So the taina has to be chayv a shvuah shtei kesef. And what Shimon agrees on, admits on, shava pruta, at least a pruta. And if you don't have these 2 conditions, you know chayv shvuah moide b'miktas. Continues the Mishnah and says, chomish prutas, and there's 5 places in the Torah that we have a pruta that's a relevant amount. Oidah shover pruta, like we just said, that moide b'miktas has to be moide at least on a shover pruta. Va'isho miskadeshes b'shover pruta. If you want to mikadesh isha, has to be worth where you give her minimum a pruta. Va'nene b'shover pruta min hegdesh moal. If you have a no from hegdesh, a value of a pruta, that's called meila. Va'moitzi shover pruta chayv la'achrid. If you find that the word for pruta, you have to do a shover. Va'goyvel es chaver shover pruta. V'nishbelo is someone who steals a shover pruta from his friend, and he made a shvuah, a false shvuah that he doesn't owe him anything, and then he wants to do tshuva. He has to go all the way to Hawaii or wherever it is, far away, to give it back to the person, and without that, it's not considered a good hashava. So there's 5 prutas. Says the Gemara, Tanina chodazimna. The Gemara asks a kasha. We learned this already, just early on in Azov. I know arba kesef, me'esrim ve'arba kesef leset, me'esrim ve'arba kesef. Lesela shtus lamekach. We learned that already. Why are you telling me again about this? The same din twice in Azov. So the Gemara teretz atayna shtei kesef v'oido shor pruta yitzrichle. No, the chiddush is the next case of the Mishnah that moide b'miktas is only if the taina is 2 kesef and oido shor pruta. So the Gemara honami tanina. We also that's on first Mishnah shvus adayonim atayna shtei kesef v'oido shor pruta. It's already a Mishnah. Why do we need to tell you it again over here? So the Gemara seif yitzrichle. We need the chiddush in our Mishnah, the last case of the Mishnah, the last cases. The Ktoni chomesh prutas, and to teach you that there's 5 prutas in the Torah, that pruta is relevant. And that's the chiddush. The Reisha is agav orcha, we mentioned it over here. Chomesh prutas, and fragt the Gemara, v'lisni nami, gabi nami oino pruta, that if someone sold something worth 6 prutas for 7 prutas, and the oino is 1 pruta, that's considered oino, unless for that it's not oino. Omer of Kana, the Samaris, we could see from our Mishnah, that if the value of the item is not Issa, that's I think 8 prutas, you're not chayav oino. The oino only starts from Issa, that the value of the item was Issa, like Rashi says later on. Not that the oino was Issa, but the pruta is not enough to be oino, so that's why it's not mentioned it. Levi or Mayesh oino le prutas. No, Levi argues and it says that if he sold something worth 6 for 7, yesh oino, because it's a pruta. V'chein Toni Levi masnisen. Levi learned in his brisa chomesh prutisen, 5 prutas, and he lists a bit of a different list. Oino pruta, what doesn't say in our Mishnah. V'oido pruta, the moide mitzas nitzi moide pruta. V'kiddush isha b'pruta, to mikadesh a woman you need a pruta. V'gezel b'pruta, that you have to yirichenu achav lemodai. V'shiva sadonim b'pruta, and Bezdin sit down to judge something, anything that the taina is of a pruta. Says the Gemara, "V'toni didon our Mishnah, my time and loik toni yeshiva sadayonim." Why didn't it say that best and sit down for a shava pruta? So the Gemara tanelei gezel. It says already gezel, so gezel is including the best will be done, will judge us for pruta. So therefore we know yeshiva sadayonim is for pruta. So the Gemara, milo toni gezel v'ktoni aveda. In the Mishnah it says also gezel and also aveda. Lechor it's the same din. So like he said, these two, you should say also yeshiva sadayonim. So the Gemara anach it's trichelei. No, gzela and aveda, you need to tell you separately why. Gezel agoyzem mechaver shor pruta v'nishbar yirichenu achrova afilu lemoida. The special chiddush that you have to go all the way to Modai to do hashava. Aveda, the chiddush is amoitza aveda shava pruta chayav la'achos. You have to give it back. Even if now I found it and it was worth a pruta, now went down in value and it's worth less than a pruta. So now it's not worth a pruta. So I shouldn't have to be machriz. No, afilu ochi, because b'shas mציעא you found it was worth a pruta, you chayav to be machriz. Said the Gemara, okay, we understand why the Mishnah didn't say the cases of Levi. But Levi, my time, why didn't Levi say this thing? So the Gemara, Tonele Gezel. It says Gezel, from Gezel we can learn to Aveda. So the Gemara, Miloi Ketoni Gezel, in Levi's price it says Gezel, but Ketoni Yeshiva Sadayonim, it says both. So like if you say these things, they can learn one from each other, you could also say Aveda. The Gemara, no, Yeshiva Sadayonim, it's Truchelei. He wants to tell you a special Chiddush. Lafukim Adar of Katina, to come to prove you know like of Katina, the Omar of Katina, Bezdin is skokim afilu pochis mishor pruta. Bezdin sit down to judge even less than shor pruta. So that's why the Bryce had to tell you clearly the Yeshiva Sadayonim is only from pruta. And the reason why you also had to say Gezel is like what we said before. To tell you the Chiddush, you have to be moilichet afilu lemodai. Telling more of a Levi, my time loik toni hekdesh. Why didn't Levi say hekdesh ayimoyel only if you have a no of shavar pruta in his Bryce? So the Gemara bechulin kumari bekotchin kumari. In Levi they want to mention his Bryce, so only chulin, and hekdesh is a whole different parsha. It's a parsha of kotchim. So the Gemara latana didon the kumari bekotchim. Our Mishnah does talk about kotchim because it talks about hekdesh. Listen to Maisa. Why didn't it say Maisa bepruta? That you could only be poite Maisa if it has a value of a pruta. So the Gemara commander our Mishnah holds ein bechoim shel pruta, that the din there has to be shor pruta doesn't mean that the Maisa has to have a shor pruta. The choimesh of the Maisa has to have a pruta. That means there has to be 4 prutas of Maisa. Only then you could be poiter it, because then the choimesh is 1 pruta. So the Gemara, so therefore we listen choimesh Maisa of a pruta. So don't tell me that Maisa needs to be a value of pruta. You should tell you that the choimesh of Maisa needs to be a pruta if we're talking about kotchim. So So the Gemara Karna Kumari B'choimish Loi Kumari. Our Mishnah talks about capital. It doesn't talk about extra fifth that you have to add. Enochinami, you could have said that, but we don't want to speak only about capital. Gufa, we learned Omar Rav Katina, but Rav Katina said Bezdin is kokim afilu lepochis mishava pruta. Bezdin sit down. If Reuben's to Shimon even less than a shava pruta, Bezdin have to sit and be done this din. Masiv Rabba asked a kasha. It says Es asher choto min hakodesh yishalem. It says a pasuk that someone who's moil from hekdesh he has to pay. The rabbi is pochish mishava pruta leishava, and it's coming to tell you chiddush that even less than a shava pruta you have to give back to hekdesh. So when you die, lekoideshin aval hekdesh loy. This is a special din about when you steal from hekdesh. But if you steal from a person, there's no din of yeshiva sadayonim less than shava pruta. How could you tell me that there is? Says the Gemara, Elo itma ochi itma. If Rav Katina said this din, it didn't say the din like we said it before. He said it differently. Omar Rav Katina said, "In uskeku bezdin shava pruta." If bezdin sat down already between Reuven and Shimon, and there is a case that Reuven that say to Shimon or shava pruta, goimrim afilu lepochos mishava pruta, and then Reuven or Shimon says, "Oh, but he owes me something else, and that something else is less than shava pruta." Since they're already bezdin sitting down already, we also have to dan less than shava pruta. When do you need? You only sit down if there's a value of shor pruta. But if we're already judging loy boinen pruta, even less than a pruta, bezdin have to be done and discuss and hear to the tzodim and paskin who is right. Said the Mishnah, Chamisha chumshinen. There's 5/5 that you have to add on a fifth. Eluhen, and these are the 5. Aoichel truma, someone eats truma b'shoigeg, he has to add on a fifth when he pays back. The truma smaisa, someone eats truma smaisa is the truma that the Levi gives from the maisa that he accepts. If someone eats that by mistake, the truma smaisa shildmai, even if it's only misofek, you have to add a fifth. If the Levi had to give misofek truma smaisa and someone ate it, you have to add a fifth. Someone eats challah that belongs to the kohen, v'abikurim, the first fruit they bring to Beis Hamikdash and he give to the kohen. If someone who's not a kohen eats it, he has to add a fifth. Moisif choimish, all these cases you have to add a fifth. And Rashi explains that all these cases are considered one case of choimish because you all learn it, because in all these cases it says the word truma, and we learn all from truma, they have to add a fifth. Now, so case number 2, someone who redeems the fourth year fruit after the tree is planted, it's called neter vayim. You're only allowed to eat if you redeem it. So when you redeem it, you have to add, if it belongs to you, you have to add a fifth. And also ma'aser sheni shelo, when you redeem it, as we learned before, you have to add a fifth if it belongs to him. Moisif choimish, that's 2 and 3. Apoides ekdeisho moisif choimish. Sorry, those are both considered one case because they also learned from the same place. In case number 3, apoides ekdeisho, someone was magdish something to bedek habayis, and now he's redeeming it, he has to add a fifth. Moisif choimish, that's number 3. And then a shavar prutum in hegdesh moisif choimish. Someone who had a no from hegdesh has to add a fifth when he pays back to hegdesh. V'agoyzer is chaver shavar pruta, someone who stole from his friend the value of a pruta v'nishpalo, and he lied, a false lie, and now he admits and he wants to do tshuva. Moisif choimish, he has to add a fifth. So we have 5 categories of choimish. Really, it's much more cases, but some of them are learned from the same source, so we consider them as one. Omar Rava, Kashili Rabbi Loza. Rabbi Loza has a kash on this Mishnah. Trumas Maisa Shildmai. You gave the Levi Maisa. The Levi has to give from that Truma to the Kohen. And the Mishnah says you have to add a choimish if you ate it by mistake. Even in a case where it's Tmai, it's only a sofek. The whole chiv me'atorah, you know, chayiv. It's only with the Rabbanon. And since it's only with the Rabbanon, did the Rabbanon make their din so strong like the Raisa? Like the Raisa, you have to add a fifth. Also in the Rabbanon, you have to have a fifth. It's a bit shver. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Shmuel, Homoni, who is this Mishnah Ramei? It's a Mishnah Ramei. The Omar also chacham physically divrem keshel Torah. The Ramei hold they did make chachamim when they were attacking something like the Torah. They made that stronger the Torah. Like in the Torah, when you eat trumas maisa, you have to give a choimish. Also trumas maisa shildmai, you also have to give a choimish. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa that we could see the Ramei was says that Chacham also chizik l'divrei k'shel Torah. It says, I maybe get Mimdinas Hayom, someone brings a get from faraway country, nosnu lo, and he gave it to the woman, v'lo yomar lo, and he didn't tell her, before nechtav, it was written in front of me, before nechtav, and it was signed in front of me, and that's a din d'Rabbanan, they have to say that, for two reasons. The Gemara in Gittin discusses why, we're not going to go into it, but it's a din d'Rabbanan, and now she got married, and she had kids. Yoitzi, the husband has to divorce her, v'avlad mamza, and the kid is a mamza, even though that's only get possum with the Rabbanon. Divrei Ameah, we could say Ameah makes a mamza from something that's really only the Rabbanon. V'chacham yormim ein avlad mamza, the vlad's no mamza, it's only possum the Rabbanon. Keitzad yaseh, what's the solution? Yitlenu mimenu, he should take it back to the shliach. V'yachzav yitnenu lo, and he should give it back to her again, b'fnei shnayim, in front of two eidim. V'yoyma lo, and he should tell her, before I nechtav, this get was written in front of me, before I nechtav, and it was stamped in front of me. So, how does it make sense? Why would the vlad be mamza? It's only possible with the Rabbanon. So the Gemara in, yes, Rameh holds, the Omer Ramnuna Mishmei Du'ulo, Rameh held, Kol HaMeshanem Mimatbea Shetovu Chachomim Begitin, anyone who changes for a Rabbanon or Metaken in Gittin, even though that it's only a Takon of the Rabbanon, Yoitzi, Vlad Mamza, the Vlad's mamza, even that's only a pseudo rabbanon, so we could see the Rameh holds that when Chacham did a gzera, they did a strong gzera, also chizik l'divrei k'shel Torah, and therefore our Mishnah that we see that Trumas Maisha Shel Dmai, it's like Trumas Maisha not Shel Dmai, is Rameh who holds also Chacham chizik l'divrei k'shel Torah. We're going to leave the sugya over here because it's a whole long Shakli V'Tarya, and we're going to continue in next year Be'ezras Hashem. Everyone should be very blessed and happy, and today is 7 days to the Oima. Shkoyach.